My name is Sage and I am 28 years old. 3 months ago, I discovered my parents and brother had been plotting to steal my house while I was away on vacation. What started as a casual conversation with my neighbor turned into the most shocking family betrayal I could never have imagined. But here's the thing about family loyalty. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones willing to stab you deepest. And sometimes, setting the perfect trap becomes the only way to expose their true colors and reclaim what is rightfully yours. Before we dive into this wild family drama, I am curious, where are you watching from today? If you are ready for a story about family betrayal, calculated revenge, and the sweetest justice ever served, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this tale has more twists than a pretzel factory. Trust me, you will want to stick around to see how karma comes full circle in the most satisfying way possible. Let me paint you the picture of how this nightmare began. I had been planning my dream vacation to Iceland for over 2 years, saving every penny from my marketing job at a tech startup. My house, a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman I bought with my own money after years of 60-hour work weeks, was finally going to sit empty for 3 weeks while I explored glaciers and chased the northern lights. I live in Portland, Oregon, in a neighborhood that has become incredibly desirable over the past 5 years. Property values have skyrocketed, and my little house that I bought for $250,000 is now worth almost $500,000. My parents, Helen and Robert, along with my older brother Marcus, have always made comments about how lucky I was to afford such a nice place. Lucky. As if the countless nights I spent working overtime, the ramen dinners, and the second-hand furniture I bought to save money had nothing to do with it. Marcus, 32, has been what you might generously call a professional disappointment. He dropped out of college twice, has had more jobs than I can count, and currently lives in our parents' basement while working part-time at an electronics store. Our parents have always enabled his behavior, giving him money, making excuses, and treating him like he just needs one more chance to get his life together. Meanwhile, I have been the responsible daughter who never asked for anything and was expected to figure everything out on my own. The discovery happened 3 days before my departure to Iceland. I was at my house frantically packing and making last-minute arrangements when my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, knocked on my door. She is a sweet woman in her 70s who has lived in the neighborhood for decades and keeps an eye on everyone's property like an unofficial neighborhood watch. "Sage, honey," she said, looking concerned. "I hope you do not mind me asking, but are you expecting your family to be doing some moving while you are away? I saw your father measuring your front door yesterday, and your mother was taking pictures of your living room windows." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, measuring my front door?" Mrs. Patterson shifted uncomfortably. "Well, he had a tape measure and he was checking the width of your door frame. Then your brother pulled up with a rental truck, and they were discussing something about furniture placement. I thought maybe you had asked them to help move some things while you were gone, but something about the way they were whispering made me think I should check with you directly. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach." "Mrs. Patterson, I absolutely did not ask them to move anything." "Did you hear what they were saying?" "Not much, but I did hear your mother mention something about getting everything in before she gets back, and your brother saying she will understand once it is all done." I am probably just being a nosy old lady, but it struck me as odd. After Mrs. Patterson left, I sat in my kitchen trying to process what she had told me. My family had been at my house, measuring things and planning some kind of move without telling me. The sinking feeling in my gut told me exactly what was happening, but I needed proof before I could believe my own family would betray me so completely. I decided to call my mother directly and see what I could find out. When Helen answered, her voice had that artificial sweetness she always uses when she is hiding something. "Oh, hi, sweetheart. Are you all packed for your big trip?" "Almost," I replied, trying to keep my voice casual. "Hey, Mrs. Patterson mentioned she saw Dad at my house yesterday. Was there something you needed to check on?" There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. "Oh, that. Your father was just making sure your locks were secure. You know how worried we get about you being away for so long." "And Marcus was there too." Another pause. "He just came along to help. You know how these older neighborhoods can be." I knew she was lying. My mother has many talents, but deception is not one of them. Her voice gets higher when she is not telling the truth, and right now she sounded like she had been inhaling helium. "That is so thoughtful of you both," I said. "I really appreciate you looking out for the house." After I hung up, I immediately called my best friend Zara, who works in property management and knows everything about tenant rights and property law. Zara, I need your advice on something crazy. I think my family is planning to move my brother into my house while I am in Iceland. Wait, what? Back up and tell me everything. I explained the conversation with Mrs. Patterson and the weird phone call with my mother. Zara listened without interrupting, but I could practically hear her getting angrier on my behalf. Sage, this is absolutely insane. Even if Marcus is family, he cannot just move into your house without your permission. That is breaking and entering, and if he establishes residency while you are gone, it could be a legal nightmare to get him out. But they are my family. Surely they would not actually do something like this. Honey, I have seen families do worse things to each other over property. The fact that they were measuring and planning means this is not some impulsive decision. They have been thinking about this and plotting it out. That night I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the times Marcus had made comments about my house, how he always talked about how much space I had for just one person, how it was wasted on someone who traveled for work. I remembered my parents mentioning how expensive it was getting to support Marcus and how they were worried about his future. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting my family directly, I was going to set a trap. I was going to give them exactly the opportunity they thought they had, and I was going to document every single thing they did. If my own family was planning to betray me, then they were going to face the consequences of their actions. I called my office and arranged to work remotely for the first week of my vacation. Then I booked myself into a hotel across town under a fake name. My family thought I was going to be on a plane to Iceland, but instead I was going to be watching their every move. The transformation from heartbroken daughter to strategic mastermind happened faster than I expected. That second sleepless night lying in my bed, knowing my family was planning to violate my home and my trust, something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, raw and burning, but it was now accompanied by something much more dangerous: cold, calculated fury. I spent the entire next day creating what I now call Operation Homecoming. If my family wanted to play games with my property, then we were going to play by my rules. First, I contacted Jake, a friend from college who works in home security systems. I explained that I needed a comprehensive surveillance setup installed immediately, and that money was no object. Jake, bless him, did not ask too many questions when I told him it was for family security purposes. Sage, I can have a full system installed by tomorrow morning. We are talking about cameras with motion detection, audio recording, smartphone alerts, cloud storage, the whole 9 yards. Anyone who enters that house will be recorded from 6 different angles. Perfect. And, Jake, this needs to be completely invisible. I do not want obvious cameras that someone might notice and disable. I can hide everything. Cameras in smoke detectors behind picture frames, even one in your coffee maker that looks like a standard appliance feature. Trust me, they will never know they are being watched. While Jake handled the surveillance, I tackled the legal side of my plan. I called my lawyer Patricia, who had handled my house purchase. When I explained the situation, her response was immediate and fierce. Sage, what your family is planning is not just morally wrong, it is legally actionable. Breaking and entering, trespassing, potentially establishing illegal residency. We can hit them with multiple charges if they go through with this. I want everything documented properly. If this goes to court, I want to make sure we have an airtight case. Smart thinking. I am going to prepare all the paperwork now. We will have restraining orders ready to file eviction notices if they try to claim residency, and a detailed property protection plan. The moment you give me the word, we can have law enforcement at your house. Patricia also suggested something that had not occurred to me: changing the locks immediately and installing new ones that would record every entry attempt. If they have keys to your current locks, we want them to have to break in, obviously. It makes the criminal case much stronger. The locksmith recommended by Patricia was a gruff man named Tony, who took one look at my situation and nodded approvingly. Family property disputes are the worst, he said, installing smart locks that would send notifications to my phone every time someone tried to enter. These locks will record every attempt, successful or not. If someone tries to pick them or break them, we will have a digital record with timestamps. By Thursday evening, my house was equipped with more security than some banks. Hidden cameras covered every room, smart locks monitored every entry point, and motion sensors would alert me to any activity. I had transformed my home into the perfect trap. The emotional preparation was harder than the technical setup. I kept thinking about family dinners where Marcus would complain about his living situation, and how my parents would look at me expectantly as if I should offer to help. I remembered my mother saying things like, "Family takes care of family, and blood is thicker than water." The irony was not lost on me that they were about to prove just how thin that blood really was. Friday morning, I put on the performance of a lifetime. I called my parents to say goodbye before my flight. I am so excited I gushed into the phone, feeling sick as the lies rolled off my tongue. The flight leaves at 2 this afternoon and I will be completely unreachable for the first few days while I get settled. No cell service where I am going initially. That sounds wonderful, honey, my mother replied. Do not worry about anything here. We will keep an eye on the house. You are the best. I left the spare key in the usual spot just in case there are any emergencies. Of course, the spare key was now to locks that had been changed and its location was monitored by 3 different cameras. Instead of going to the airport, I checked into the Marriott downtown under the name Sarah Mitchell. I had paid cash for a week-long stay and told the front desk I was a writer working on a deadline and did not want to be disturbed. My room had a perfect view of the city, but more importantly, it had reliable internet for monitoring my house remotely. The waiting began Friday evening. I sat in my hotel room, laptop open, watching the live feeds from my house. Everything looked normal and peaceful. My living room, kitchen, and bedrooms were exactly as I had left them. For a moment I wondered if I had misunderstood everything, if maybe Mrs. Patterson had been mistaken, if my paranoia had gotten the better of me. That hope died Saturday morning at 9:43 a.m. My phone buzzed with a motion alert from the front door camera. I opened the app and watched my father walk up to my front porch, looking around nervously before trying the fake spare key. When it did not work, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Within 5 minutes, Marcus pulled up in a large rental truck, followed by my mother in her sedan. I watched in real time as my family stood on my front porch discussing their next move. The audio was crystal clear. She definitely said the key would be in the usual spot, my mother was saying. Maybe she moved it, Marcus replied. Or maybe she suspected something. Do not be ridiculous, my father interjected. She has no idea. She is probably over the Atlantic Ocean right now. Marcus walked around to my backyard and I switched camera views to follow him. I watched my own brother examine my back door, testing the handle and peering through windows. The violation of seeing him case my house like a common criminal was almost too much to bear. The back door is locked too, he called out. But I think I can get in through the kitchen window. You always said she was too trusting with her home security. That was when I knew with absolute certainty that this was not some misunderstanding or family emergency. They had come prepared to break into my house and they were going to do it. Watching my brother pry open my kitchen window was the moment everything became real. This was not a nightmare I was going to wake up from. This was my actual family committing actual crimes against me, being recorded in high definition from multiple angles. Marcus had clearly done this before. He moved with a confidence that suggested he had broken into places previously, testing the window frame, checking for alarms, and methodically working the latch until it popped open. The sound of my window being forced made me physically sick. Got it, he called to our parents. I am going in to unlock the front door. I watched him climb through my kitchen window, his boots landing on my countertop where I had eaten breakfast just 2 days earlier. He looked around my kitchen with a familiarity that was disturbing, like he was already mentally rearranging my space to suit his needs. Within minutes he had unlocked my front door from the inside and our parents entered carrying boxes and suitcases. Not overnight bags. Full suitcases, like someone was moving in permanently. Perfect, my mother said, looking around my living room with satisfaction. This is going to work out beautifully. Marcus, your room will be upstairs, the big bedroom that faces the garden. My master bedroom. They were planning to put Marcus in my bedroom. What about her stuff? Marcus asked, gesturing toward my furniture. We will move what we need to move, my father replied pragmatically. She has way too much furniture for one person anyway. We can put some things in storage. They were not just planning to move Marcus in. They were planning to redecorate my house to accommodate him. I watched in growing horror as they began moving my furniture around, discussing which pieces they would keep and which would have to go. I called Zara immediately. They are in my house right now, I whispered into the phone as if they might somehow hear me through the cameras. They broke in through my kitchen window and they are moving furniture around like they own the place. Are you recording this? Every single second. I have them on camera breaking and entering, discussing permanent residence and planning to dispose of my property. Sage, this is criminal. You need to call the police right now. Not yet. I want to see how far they will go. If I'm going to destroy them, I want to make sure I have everything. Zara was quiet for a moment. Honey, I understand you are angry, but be careful. The longer you let this go on, the more they can claim they thought they had permission. She was right, but I was not ready to spring my trap yet. I wanted to see the full scope of their betrayal. Over the next several hours, I watched my family systematically take over my house. Marcus made multiple trips to the rental truck, bringing in clothes, electronics, furniture, and personal belongings. This was not a temporary stay, he was moving in permanently. My mother started rearranging my kitchen, moving my dishes to make room for different ones they had brought. My father began setting up what looked like a home office in my guest room. They were not just stealing my house, they were erasing me from it. The most painful moment came when I watched Marcus in my bedroom going through my closet and dresser drawers. She has way too many clothes, he said to our mother, who had come upstairs to help him organize. Well, she will not need all of them, Helen replied matter-of-factly. We can donate some things. It will be good for her to downsize when she gets back. When she gets back. They were planning to present this as a fait accompli when I returned from Iceland. They expected me to accept that my brother had moved into my house and taken over my bedroom and that my belongings had been donated or stored to make room for him. That evening I expanded my surveillance network. I called Jake back and asked him to add external cameras to monitor who else might be involved in this scheme. You want me to come back tonight, Sage? What exactly is going on over there? I decided to trust him with the truth. Jake had always been a good friend and I was going to need allies for what was coming next. Jake, my family broke into my house today and they are in the process of moving my brother in permanently. I am recording everything for legal purposes, but I need to know if anyone else is involved. Holy shit, Sage. That is insane. Yeah, I can add external cameras tonight. If they are planning something this elaborate, there might be other people helping them. Jake was right. When I reviewed the external footage later that evening, I discovered that my Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim had stopped by with more boxes. Even my cousin Derek had helped carry furniture. This was not just my immediate family. This was a coordinated effort involving multiple relatives. I started making a list of everyone who was involved with timestamps of their participation. Patricia was going to need this information for the legal proceedings. Sunday morning brought a new level of audacity. I watched my mother call a cleaning service to come clean my house for the new resident. She scheduled them under her own name, telling them she was preparing the house for her son who was taking over the lease. Taking over the lease on a house I owned outright. When the cleaning crew arrived, I called the company directly. Hi, this is Sage, and I believe there has been some mistake. Someone scheduled cleaning for my house, but I did not authorize this. Oh, let me check. Yes. Helen called yesterday to schedule service for her son who is moving into the property on Maple Street. Helen is not authorized to schedule services for my property. I own that house and I did not approve any cleaning services. I am so sorry for the confusion. Should we send our crew somewhere else? Actually, let them clean. But I want you to bill Helen directly for the services and I want a record of her claiming authority over my property. Even the cleaning service was going to become evidence of their presumption and fraud. By Sunday evening, Marcus was fully moved in. I watched him order pizza delivery to my house, giving my address as his own. He had changed his voter registration online using my address. He had even called the cable company to transfer his service to his new place. Each action was another nail in the coffin I was building for them. Monday morning, I made the call I had been planning since Friday. Patricia, it is time. I have 72 hours of footage showing multiple family members breaking and entering, moving personal property, establishing residency, and making fraudulent claims about ownership and authority over my house. How do you want to handle this? We can have them arrested immediately, or we can go the civil route first. I want to do this right. I want them to face criminal charges, but I also want them to understand exactly how thoroughly they have been caught. Patricia laughed, and it was not a kind sound. Sage, what you have documented here is going to be one of the most open and shut cases I have ever seen. Breaking and entering, burglary, fraud, trespassing, theft. We can charge them with everything. Good. Set up a meeting for tomorrow. I want to confront them in my house with witnesses, with cameras running, and with law enforcement standing by. I want them to understand that their actions have consequences. Are you sure you want to confront them directly? That could get emotional. Patricia, they stole my house while I was supposed to be in another country. They went through my personal belongings and planned to donate them. They involved multiple family members in a coordinated scheme to defraud me. I think I am entitled to see their faces when they realize how completely they have been caught. Fair enough. I will coordinate with the police and have everything ready for tomorrow afternoon. Tuesday was going to be the day my family learned that their youngest member was not as naive and helpless as they had always assumed. Tuesday afternoon at exactly 2 o'clock I stood on my own front porch, heart pounding but resolve steel solid. Behind me stood Patricia Detective Sarah Martinez from the Portland Police Department, and Jake, who had volunteered to be my witness. In my hand was a folder containing 72 hours of documentation that would destroy my family's carefully constructed lies. I used my key, the real key to the new locks, and opened my front door. The scene inside was even worse than what I had observed through cameras. Marcus was lounging in my leather recliner eating takeout from my kitchen table while our mother reorganized my bookshelf. My father was in the backyard, apparently planning a garden redesign. The silence when they saw me was deafening. "Sage," my mother gasped, dropping the books she was holding. "You are supposed to be in Iceland." "What are you doing here?" "I live here," I said calmly, stepping aside to let Detective Martinez enter behind me. "The question is, what are you doing here?" Marcus jumped up from my chair, his face cycling through confusion, panic, and then settling on defiant anger. "Mom said you were okay with me staying here while you were gone. This is just a misunderstanding." Really, I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. "Because I have footage of you breaking into my house through the kitchen window on Saturday morning. Would you like to see it?" The color drained from his face. Our father came in from the backyard, saw the detective, and immediately understood that their scheme had collapsed. "Sage, sweetheart, let us explain," Helen started, her voice taking on that pleading tone she used whenever Marcus got arrested. "We were just trying to help Marcus get back on his feet. We knew you would understand once you saw how well he was taking care of the place." Detective Martinez stepped forward. "Ma'am, I need you to understand that what you are describing is still breaking and entering regardless of your relationship to the homeowner. I had imagined this moment dozens of times over the past 4 days, but the reality was more satisfying than I had ever dreamed. My family, who had spent years treating me like the naive little sister who could be manipulated and taken advantage of, was finally seeing me as I really was. Someone who was smarter, more prepared, and infinitely more strategic than they had ever given me credit for. "Mom, Dad, Marcus," I said, enjoying the way they flinched at my calm tone. "I want you to listen very carefully to what I am about to tell you. I was never in Iceland. I have been in a hotel downtown for the past 4 days watching you commit multiple felonies against me in real time," Marcus exploded. "You set us up, you lying manipulative." "Stop right there," Detective Martinez interrupted. "Sir, you are in no position to be calling anyone manipulative when you broke into someone's house and moved in without permission." Patricia stepped forward with her folder. "I have documentation showing that you, Marcus, changed your voter registration to this address, set up utilities, ordered delivery services, and told multiple people that this was your new residence. That constitutes fraud and attempted theft of property." "We are family," my father shouted, speaking for the first time. "Family helps family. You cannot have your own brother arrested." "Watch me," I replied and nodded to Detective Martinez. "Marcus Thompson, you are under arrest for breaking and entering, burglary and fraud." She began pulling out handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." The sound of those handcuffs clicking onto my brother's wrists was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. Marcus was screaming about how I was destroying the family, how this was all a misunderstanding, how he was going to sue me for entrapment. "Helen and Robert Thompson," Detective Martinez continued, "you are also under arrest as accessories to breaking and entering and conspiracy to commit fraud." Watching my parents get handcuffed in my living room was surreal. My mother was crying, begging me to reconsider, promising they would fix everything. My father was silent, but the look he gave me was pure hatred. "The moving truck outside is also evidence," Patricia informed them. "Everything you brought into this house will need to be catalogued and removed. Miss Sage will be filing for restitution for any damage to her property and for the cost of changing locks and installing security systems." As the police led my family away, my mother turned back to me one last time. "Sage, please, do not do this. Think about what this will do to the family." "I did think about the family," I replied. "I thought about how the family was planning to steal my house, go through my personal belongings, and present it as a gift I should be grateful for. I thought about how the family involved aunts, uncles, and cousins in a scheme to defraud me. I thought about how the family assumed I was too stupid and too trusting to protect myself." "We never thought you were stupid," she whispered. "No, you thought I was controllable. There is a difference. The silence in my house after the police cars drove away was profound. For the first time in days, my home was actually mine again. Patricia and Jake helped me walk through and document everything that had been moved, changed, or damaged. The scope of their presumption was breathtaking. They had not just moved Marcus in N, they had begun redecorating according to his preferences. My grandmother's antique dining table had been moved to the garage to make room for a pool table Marcus had brought. My carefully curated art collection had been taken down and replaced with his collection of motorcycle posters and beer signs. "They really thought they were going to get away with this," Jake said, shaking his head as we surveyed my bedroom. Marcus had completely rearranged the furniture and even installed different curtains. The level of entitlement is staggering. Patricia was photographing everything for the civil case we would be filing in addition to the criminal charges. "Sage, I want you to understand that what we documented here goes beyond simple family drama. This was a coordinated conspiracy involving multiple people to defraud you of your property. The criminal charges are just the beginning." Within hours, my extended family began calling. Apparently, word had spread quickly that I had had my own family arrested and I was being painted as the villain who had turned on her blood. My Aunt Carol called first, screaming before I even said hello. "Sage Marie Thompson, how could you do this to your parents? They were just trying to help Marcus and you had them arrested like common criminals." "They were common criminals, Aunt Carol. They broke into my house. It is family property. You should be sharing with your brother instead of being selfish." "Family property. I bought this house with my own money. I have never received a dime from anyone in this family. That is not the point. Family takes care of family." "You are right," I said. "Family should take care of family. They should not steal from family, lie to family, or conspire against family. If you helped them move Marcus's things into my house, you might want to get yourself a lawyer." The phone went dead. My cousin Derek called next, trying a different approach. "Sage, I know everyone is upset, but maybe we can work this out without the courts. Marcus could pay you rent, make it official." Marcus broke into my house. He went through my personal belongings. He told people he was taking over my lease on a house I own outright. There is no working this out. But they are in jail, Sage. Uncle Robert has diabetes and Aunt Helen is having panic attacks. Is your pride really worth destroying the family? My pride, Derek. They planned this while I was supposed to be in another country. They measured my doors, took pictures, involved multiple family members, and executed a coordinated break-in. This was not some impulsive mistake. This was a calculated attack on my property and my trust. You set them up. You pretended to go on vacation just to trap them. I protected my property from people who I suspected were planning to steal it. If they had not actually broken in, nothing would have happened to them. The calls continued throughout the evening. Uncle Jim tried to guilt me by talking about family loyalty. My cousin Sarah accused me of being vindictive and cruel. Even my grandmother called to tell me I was breaking her heart by turning against the family. Not a single person called to ask if I was okay. Not one family member expressed concern about how I must have felt discovering that my parents and brother were planning to steal my house. Not one person acknowledged that what they had done was wrong. The next morning brought a new wave of drama. Marcus had been released on bail, and he immediately began a social media campaign painting himself as the victim of his unstable, vindictive sister. According to his Facebook posts, I had lured the family into a trap and was destroying the family out of spite and mental illness. The comments on his posts were illuminating. Apparently, my family had been telling people for months that I was selfish for living alone in such a big house, that I owed it to Marcus to help him get back on his feet, and that my success was somehow undeserved or lucky rather than earned. My mother's post was even worse. She painted herself as a heartbroken mother whose daughter had chosen money over family. She described how they had only been trying to help Marcus transition to independence and how I had cruelly manipulated the situation to cause maximum harm to people who loved me. The responses were a mix of people supporting her and others questioning why she thought breaking into someone's house was acceptable help for Marcus. Several people pointed out that if I owned the house, my family had no right to give it to Marcus without my permission. But what hurt most was seeing how many extended family members and family friends liked and shared these posts. People I had known my entire life were accepting my family's version of events without question, painting me as the villain who had destroyed a family for purely selfish reasons. Zara came over that evening with wine and takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant. "How are you holding up?" she asked, settling onto my couch with a concerned expression. "I am angry," I admitted. "Not about the legal stuff. That is going exactly as planned. But seeing the family completely refuse to acknowledge what they did wrong and instead paint me as the problem, it hurts more than I expected. What they did was criminal, Sage. Literally criminal. The fact that they are trying to spin it as a family dispute shows how manipulative they have always been. The worst part is that I keep wondering if I should have handled it differently. Maybe I should have confronted them before they actually broke in. Maybe I should have given them a chance to explain. Sage, stop. They had already measured your door and planned the break-in before you ever suspected anything. This was not some impulsive mistake. They spent time and effort planning to steal your house. The only thing you did was protect yourself and document their crimes. Zara was right, but the emotional manipulation from my family was taking its toll. They were experts at making me feel guilty for standing up for myself, and even though I knew I was in the right, part of me was starting to wonder if I had gone too far. That doubt disappeared the next morning when Patricia called with an update from the district attorney's office. Sage, they want to make a deal. The plea deal negotiations revealed the true scope of my family's scheme in ways that even I had not fully understood. Patricia sat across from me in her office, spreading out documents that painted a picture of months of planning and manipulation. According to the prosecutor, your brother has been planning this for over 6 months, she said, pointing to phone records and financial documents. He had been researching tenant rights, looking into how long someone needs to live somewhere to establish residency, and even consulting with a sketchy landlord-tenant lawyer about how to claim rights to property. The betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. Marcus had not just decided impulsively to move into my house, he had researched how to steal it legally. Your parents took out a loan against their own house to help fund this plan, Patricia continued. They were expecting to save money on Marcus's living expenses and eventually convince you to sell them the house below market value so he could stay permanently. They mortgaged their house to help him steal mine, it appears so. The loan was specifically described as helping with family housing transition. The district attorney was offering a plea deal that would result in probation for my parents and minimal jail time for Marcus in exchange for full restitution and formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Patricia recommended against it. You have them dead to rights on multiple felonies. The evidence is overwhelming and the DA knows it. If you want to send a real message about consequences, we should push for full prosecution. I thought about it for 3 days. During that time, my family launched a final campaign of emotional manipulation. My grandmother called crying, begging me to show mercy to your poor parents. My Aunt Carol showed up at my work, causing a scene in the parking lot about how I was destroying innocent people. Even Marcus left voicemails alternating between threatening to sue me and promising he had learned his lesson. But what solidified my decision was a conversation with Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor who had first alerted me to their scheme. Sage, honey, I hope you do not think I am interfering, but I wanted you to know that your mother came by yesterday trying to get me to change my statement to the police. What did she want you to say? She wanted me to tell them that you had given permission for Marcus to stay at the house and that I had misunderstood the situation when I talked to you. She wanted you to lie to the police. That is exactly what she wanted. When I refused, she got very upset and said I was ruining her family over a misunderstanding. But Sage, what I saw was not a misunderstanding. Those people were planning something sneaky, and they got caught. That conversation ended any doubt I had about pursuing full prosecution. My family was not sorry about what they had done. They were sorry they got caught. Even faced with criminal charges, they were still trying to manipulate and lie their way out of consequences. The trial lasted 3 weeks and was everything I had hoped it would be. The surveillance footage was devastating. Watching my family break into my house, move furniture, and discuss how to handle my reaction when I returned made the jury visibly uncomfortable. Marcus's research into tenant rights and property law demolished any claim that this was an innocent misunderstanding. My mother's testimony was particularly damaging to their case. Under cross-examination, she admitted they had been planning this for months, had involved multiple family members, and had specifically waited until I was supposed to be out of the country to execute their plan. We were just trying to help Marcus get established, she kept repeating, even as the prosecutor showed evidence of them researching how to dispose of my belongings and change utility accounts. Marcus was sentenced to 18 months in prison with 3 years probation. My parents received 6 months of weekends in jail, 5 years probation and community service. All 3 were ordered to pay full restitution for my security system, new locks, legal fees, and damages to my property. But more satisfying than the legal victory was the social justice that followed. As word spread about what had actually happened, not my family's spin but the documented facts presented in court, the narrative completely shifted. Family friends who had initially supported my parents and criticized me began reaching out to apologize. My cousin Sarah, who had accused me of being vindictive, sent a heartfelt letter acknowledging that she had been wrong to judge me without knowing the full story. Seeing the actual evidence in the news coverage of the trial made me realize how much Mom and Dad had twisted the facts when they told us about it, she wrote. Breaking into your house and planning to steal it was not helping Marcus get established. It was criminal, and I am sorry I ever suggested otherwise. Even some of my extended family began to distance themselves from my parents and Marcus. Uncle Jim, who had initially tried to guilt me into dropping charges, posted on social media about how actions have consequences and how family loyalty does not mean enabling criminal behavior. The best outcome was not the legal victory or social vindication, though. The best outcome was discovering who my real family actually was. Zara, who had stood by me from the first phone call and helped me navigate every step of the process, became more than my best friend. She became my chosen sister. Jake, who had installed my security system and testified at the trial, became part of my inner circle. Mrs. Patterson, who had risked family drama to warn me and refused to lie for my mother, became the grandmother figure I had always wanted. Patricia became not just my lawyer but a mentor who taught me that standing up for yourself is not cruel, it is necessary. 6 months after the trial, I hosted my first Thanksgiving in my house, the house that was truly legally and completely mine. Around my dining table sat Zara and her husband Jake, and his girlfriend Mrs. Patterson, Patricia and her wife, and 3 colleagues from work who had become close friends during the aftermath of the trial. I want to toast something, I said, raising my wine glass. I want to toast the difference between family you are born with and family you choose. I want to toast people who show up for you when things get hard, who tell you the truth even when it is uncomfortable, and who celebrate your victories without trying to diminish them. As we clinked glasses, I realized that my biological family's betrayal had been a gift in disguise. It had freed me from the obligation to tolerate people who saw my success as something they were entitled to, share my boundaries as suggestions they could ignore, and my trust as something they could violate without consequences. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace with toxic family members and protecting your own well-being? Have you discovered that the people who share your blood are not always the ones who have your back? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the most painful family situations teach us the most valuable lessons about self-respect and chosen family. If this story of family karma and justice resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama stories. Share this video with anyone who has ever had to set boundaries with manipulative family members. Sometimes seeing someone else choose themselves over toxic family dynamics can be the inspiration someone needs to do the same. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember, family loyalty should never require you to sacrifice your self-respect, your boundaries, or your property. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to choose who truly deserves a place at your table.